Okay. Good afternoon, class. Pasensya na. I'm having a problem downloading the file. So, may mali akong format in saving the file. Pasensya na ha. And trying to download the correct file. Kanina ko pa ginagawa eh. Wait lang. Pasensya na. Class, kailan ang nyo? Bakasyon nyo? Ay, may audio ba ako?
18
Ma'am?
Kailan ang vacation nyo? Nakalagay ba sa nyo? Sa website?
20 po.
20. Ano ba ngayon? So, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay. So, we still have one more synchronous meeting before your Christmas break. Naku, nagkakaproblema ako sa some of the symbols here were yung mga equations were tag dito were not properly displayed in the document. Kasi ni-squeeze para ma-load ko ng ayos, ma-upload ko. Diba may limit sa uploading. Anyway, sayang yung oras. Let me proceed to, kahit kulang-kulang yung aking presentation. I have to discuss it to you now. Yes, meron bang may message? Thank you, Miss Mary Ann. Thank you for that record uploaded. Okay. So, our lesson for today is about taking the inverse of a matrix. We're getting there in finding the practical way to solve matrices, problems related to multivariate, yung mga matrices. So, we're just trying to discuss. Hindi pa ako naglalagay ng mga ng mga applications niya. We'll just be discussing mga techniques on how to solve systems of linear equations. So last time, we ended up discussing the Gaussian elimination. So we'll be needing it also in the discussion of determinants. But before we can proceed to that lesson, determinants, we need an introductory topic to that, and that is what we call inverse of a matrix. Dali lang ha. Kita niyo ba yung aking presentation? Sana hindi siya pumalpak.
Opo, ma'am. Kita po.
Presentation.
Opo, ma'am.
Ha? Okay lang?
Kita po.
Kita po, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Hindi na ako nakapag-video kasi nakalimutan ko ng maligo. Kaaayos nitong aking presentation. Pasensya na. Okay. So, inverse of a matrix. We shall be defining inverse of a matrix. Hindi muna ako magpapakita ng video ko. Pasensya na muna. Hindi niyo naman gusto rin makita. Okay. So, let's start with yung reciprocal. Yung term na reciprocal. Okay, kasi from there, doon natin nakuha yung concept ng inverse matrix or matrix inverse. So, supposing we have, in algebra ha, yung real arithmetic. Okay. If A has, dapat dito may A. Dali. Kanina inaano ko na to, ini-edit ko, hindi naman ako nakatapos. Nagpanic na ako. Okay? So, let me use this. If A, there is an A here. Oh my God. Ayaw niya. Okay. Ayan, tiyan mo, ayaw makisama. Bakit may problema ang aking file? Sabi dito, if A has a reciprocal, anong reciprocal ng A? It's 1 over A. Remember? Yes? Okay. Sino si Boknok na yan? Bornok. So, pens. Try natin. Okay. Ayan. Sumulat naman ng konti. Nakisama naman. If A has a reciprocal, that is denoted by, it can be denoted by A raised to the negative 1 power. Okay, so this is equal to yung customary notation ng reciprocal of A, which is 1 over A. Okay, ang galing ko. Ayan. It's 1 over A. Yan ang reciprocal niyan. Okay? And then, baba ko pa na dito ha. The number is sometimes called the multiplicative inverse of A. The number, ito. Sorry ha, kasi hindi ko talaga siya nag-delete. Ewan ko ba kung anong nangyari. Bakit ganon? Okay. A raised to negative 1 is a reciprocal of A. This is also sometimes called a multiplicative inverse. Okay. Ano lang naman to, real arithmetic lang of multiplicative inverse of A. Okay? The number A raised to negative 1 is sometimes called a multiplicative inverse of A, such that pag daw ito ay minultiply natin yung A natin, see, ang A nyo, minultiply nyo ng A raised to negative 1, that would be 1. Or, this is also equivalent to, pwede rin siyang, erase ko to. Okay. Green ulit. Pwede rin siyang A raised to negative 1 times A, you'll get 1. Right? Kasi A times 1 over A, kinakancel mo yung diba? Yung A doon. So it becomes 1. So ang resulting product niya is identity matrix. Hindi naman siya actually matrix, scalar siya, which is equal to 1. Okay? It is an identity scalar. Okay? So, yun yung ating naaral sa real arithmetic or sa yung linear. Okay. Doon sa scalar properties ng mga values. Similarly, i-apply natin yan into a general form sa sa matrix. Okay? Na-delete kasi. Nahirapan akong ano. Similarly, we have this definition. If A, may A to, yung aking, nawala lahat yung, ano ko yung symbols dito. There is, a symbol here. Diba? If A is a square matrix, ano ba square matrix? N by N. Okay? And if, ay nako, is a square matrix, and if a matrix B of the same size can be found such that, ito, AB is equal to BA. Therefore, kapag inverse yung isa ng isa, or B is the inverse of A, or B is the inverse of A, or the other way around. A is the inverse of B, then the resulting product would be an identity matrix whose size is n by n. Okay? Then, ang dami kasi na-delete. And, if a matrix B of the same size can be found such that AB equals BA, and that is equal to I, then A, bibigyan ko kayo ng mas maayos na kopya. I'm sorry for this illustration, or this handout. Okay, then A, kasi definition to is said to be, then A is said to be a non-singular or invertible. Okay? Ibig sabihin, pwede kayo makakuha ng inverse. Okay, it's invertible. And B, or the other way around, if B is called an inverse of A, and B is called an inverse of A, and then it's a period. Little left. If A is a square matrix, and if a matrix and if a matrix B of the same size can be found such that AB equals BA, and it is equal to an identity matrix whose size is n by n, then A is said to be non-singular or invertible, and B is called an inverse of A. If no such matrix B, okay, can be found, then it is said to be, then A is said to be singular, or pag singular, non-invertible. Will be more familiarized with those terms, yung non-singular and singular, as we solve matrix problems. Bakit ba kailangan dapat ay invertible. Kasi nawawala ng solution, nagiging inconsistent ang solution kapag non-invertible. So later on, we'll find out. Okay? Ulit-ulit. Kapag yung product ng given matrix and its inverse, say P, results to an identity matrix. Identity matrix, as you may recall, is a square matrix. Dapat square. Yung dami ng rows ay nagko-coincide sa dami ng columns. Okay? Ngayon, if the product is non-singular or if A is said is non-singular, then B is the inverse of A. Or it can be described as an invertible matrix. Basta meron siyang inverse. Non-singular and invertible matrix. Otherwise, we refer to a particular matrix A to be singular or non-invertible. Okay? Ano ba yung sinasabi ni ma'am? Example natin ay eto. Na-delete yung mga important ano. Pag pala parang ini-squeeze niyo yung file, dina-downgrade niyo kumbaga yung file size, pati yung mga symbols nawawala. Tagal ko nang nagawa kahapon pa. Matagal na sa akin yun yung kahapon. Okay? So, na-delete siya, kaya nalilito ako ngayon. So, example number 1. Okay. Supposing we have A here, a 2 by 2 matrix. Sabi, itong B is said to be an inverse of A if the product of the two matrices is equal to an identity matrix which is of size 2 by 2. Okay? Would you know? Tama ba tong solution niya? Kaya ba natin isolve to? Can we show? Can I show? Dapat pala, can I show? Okay, paano yon? Check natin ha. Pero madali lang naman ipakita yon because you know how to multiply matrices. So, yung 2, 2, ano ba yun? Ano pa yung entries niya? 3, 2. Baba ko ng konti dahil ayaw niya ipakita. Hindi ko maisingit. Dito na lang kaya ako. Okay, sandali. Okay. Pen. Okay, we have 2, 2, 3, 2. Multiply daw natin sa negative 1, 1. 3, 2, negative 1. What does it give you? But 2 times negative 1 plus 3 times 1, it is 1. Pangalawa namang entry dun sa first row. 2 times 3, 2 is, or 3 halves is 3 plus 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. So, 0 yon. Okay. And there's 1. Yung second row entries sa first row entry. Second row entries at saka first column entries. Multiply natin. Get the cross products and add. We'll get 0. Tapos ito, 2 times 3 over 2 is 3 plus negative 2. Edi 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay? So we have a product equivalent to an identity matrix. Zoom out ko. Zoom out. Zoom out. Sorry naman, class. Demanding talaga tong klaseng to eh. Nagpapanik tuloy ako, na-delete ko na nga eh. Okay, yan. Okay na. Okay na. Nasa bottom right po. Okay, zoom out nyo po, ma'am. Okay. Thank you, Mark. Mark, okay na? Dito lang pala, doon ako napunta. Okay. Thank you, Mark. Ito pala yun. Oh. Kasi usually, gusto ko kasi kalkulado ko, gusto ko yung width ng screen ang na-occupy. Yun, nagpapalusot pa ako. Thank you. Okay na po ba, Sir Mark? Okay na? Ayaw na sumagot si Mark. Umalis na yata. Okay. So, delete ko to ah. Oh. Did you get this part? Okay, okay. Thank you. Now, alam natin that A, A here, pag inanalyze nyo, is non-singular. Or, pag non-singular, vertible, di ba? Vertible. Invertible pala. Invertible. Invertible siya. So, madali ang kuhanan ng solution later on. Yan. We are just trying to prove whether the inverse of the given matrix does exist para masabi nating non-singular. Okay, and then we arrive to, that leads to our first theorem under this topic or under this lesson. Theorem 1.6a, if a matrix has an inverse, then the inverse is unique. Okay? Walang duplication. Tingnan ko kung may putol dyan sa part na yan. Wait lang ha. Sine-check ko. Kasi kung yan ay ni-screenshot ko lang, then there should be no problem. Saan ba ako? Theorem. Okay. Let B and C be inverses of A. So, dalawa yung inverse ng A. Hanap ko kung saan ko nilagay ito. Ito. Problem na to. Okay, there. Yes, nakita ko na. Baka kasi mali ang sabihin ko. Okay. If a matrix has an inverse, then the inverse is unique. So, ito ay proof lang, class. This is just a proof. Ayan, proof lang ito. Some of the properties that I'll be discussing have no proof. Hindi ko na siya in-upload. Hindi ko na siya tinype. Okay? Kasi mag-ano pa yon, magdadagdag pa ng confusion. I just want you to focus on the operations, yung theoretical foundation. Nandyan din naman, but I won't be discussing those in detail. Okay, so if let's say B and C are inverses of A, then BA equals AC. Kasi sabi, inverse naman ng A yung B, pag minultiply mo siya sa A, ganun din yung C sa A, you'll get an identity matrix. Therefore, anong nangyari dito? B is equal to, pag minultiply mo sa identity matrix, will just give you B. And we know that, okay, identity matrix can also be written as AC. O, pinalitan ko yung AC. And by associativity law, inaral natin yan in the earlier lessons, quantity BA times C is equal to BA, ito yon sa taas. Highlight. Ito yon. ito. BA is just IN. Ito, ni-replace lang. So, times C, it's the same as C. So, therefore, obviously, B and C are one and the same. So, we cannot claim that B and C are not equal. It's just an inverse of A. Iisa lang yung um, characteristics ng B and C. So we shall now write, isa lang talaga ang inverse ng given matrix. Yun lang ang pinapakita dito. We shall now write the inverse of A if it is, or if it exists as A raised to negative 1, or inverse of A is equal to or can be presented as the product of the given matrix and its inverse, o pwede rin by, ano ba to, commute, is it commutativity? Oh, yes, commutativity law. Mauna si A, negative raised to negative 1, or inverse of A times A, you'll get the identity matrix whose size is n by n. Para siyang yung kaninang discussion natin, ito, oh. Diba? Kaya lang, in the context of matrix. Okay, we're using the context of matrix. Okay? Dapat matrix na yan. So, ina-apply pala sa matrix yung reciprocal property of any real arithmetic. Okay, example. Okay, example. Alam na natin to, ha. Tandaan lang natin. It's a definition. It's a theorem that you have to remember. Supposing we have the given matrix ito. Okay. 2 by 2 lang siya. Entries niya 1, 3, 2, 4. Let us try to find the inverse of A. Okay? Since unknown pa siya, yung inverse of A, kasi yung identity matrix, alam natin. Oh, pag 2 by 2, ito, 1, 0, 0, 1. Di ba? Ganon. Ang diagonal line niya consists of entries na equal sa 1. Unknown yung inverse matrix or the inverse of A. So, to find these arbitrary symbols or the values of A, B, C, and D, wait lang ha, excuse me lang ha, dami lang akong dali lang class ha, marami lang akong okay. Daming distraction ngayon, magpapasko kasi. Yan siya na. Okay, balikan ko ang aking lesson. Ayan. So, hinahanap natin yung inverse ng A. So, we'll find A, B, C, and D. To find that, diba, balikan natin yung theorem, A times the inverse of A is equal to the identity matrix. So, ito yon. And this is the given matrix, and this is the inverse of the given matrix. So, para sinusolve yan, multiply nyo lang. You should always uh, recall. You should be able to recall how to multiply matrices. Alam naman natin yung first row, i-multiply sa first column. That would give you the first entry of the identity matrix. Ito yon. Okay? First row times second column. Ito yan. Second row times first column. This one. And first row times the second row times the second column. Ito. And there you are. Ayan na yung ating product. A times the inverse of A. Ito yung product. I-equate na natin dito. Pag in-equate nyo yan, dapat nagko-correspond doon sa pwesto niya sa sa matrix, di ba? This is A11 should be equivalent or should be equated to A11 also of the identity matrix. O, A plus 2C equals 1. Ito naman, B plus 2D equals 0. 3A plus 4C equals 0. 3B plus 4D is 1. Now, to find A, B, C, and D, you have to apply yung elimination method. Diba? Eliminate the common letter or the common symbol. Dali lang, class, ha? Marami kasi akong Dalihan, nasaan na ako? May ka-chat ako habang nagtuturo. Parang kayo may ka-chat din. Okay? Paano nakuha tong A equals negative 2, C equals 3 over 2, B equals 1, B equals negative 1 half? Anyone? Paano yan sinasolve? If you want to recite, tapos you have to, or I want you to show your solution, magpe-present din kayo, di ba? Kaya lang, anong oras na? Kukulangan ako sa oras. I want to solve this by myself na lang. Consider niyo yung itong equation na to. Hala, wala yung this one. Yan. Yan. Eliminate niyo yung yung A. Paano i-eliminate dyan? I-multiply niyo yung first. Ito. Okay, this one, multiply nyo ng Yuri. Ano multiply natin?
Negative 3 po.
Okay, thank you, Yuri. Okay, negative 3. O, ayan. Ganun lang, ma-eliminate nyo na yung A, then you'll be able to get C here, which is equal to 3 over 2. Oh, hindi ko na siguro ipakikita kasi yan mga mga lumang lessons na natin yan, di ba? So, dapat alam nyo na yan. And so on. Ganun din ang principle of getting yung the rest of the symbols here. That's why we have this A equal to negative 2, C 3 over 2. Huwag kayo magkakamali doon sa pwesto ng mga values nila ha. You put all those values in their respective positions. So B, 1, D is negative 1 half. Ito yung inverse ng A. So, since we're able to get the inverse of A, then, pag chinek nyo yan, minultiply nyo to, yung inverse doon sa given matrix, you'll end up finding or getting this product identity matrix whose size is 2 by 2. And therefore, it is non-singular because it has an inverse. Invertible yung ating inverse, ay yung ating matrix A. Okay? Operation pa lang yan. We're trying to illustrate how to find the inverse of the given matrix. It does not give us a meaningful use of the inverse matrix. Mamaya pa yon, later on pa yon. Okay? Mga operations muna tayo. Example number 3. Okay, ito yung given matrix. 1, 2, 2, 4. Okay. Ganun din yung steps in finding A, B, C, and D. Okay? Very similar. First row, first column. Ito siya. First row, second column. This one. Second row, first column. First row, second column. Okay? Pag minultiply nyo yan, or yes, it should be equal to the identity matrix. And then, equate nyo siya sa mga corresponding values nitong nasa left-hand side to the right-hand side. Dapat kung saan nakapwesto, ha? And then, tingnan nyo dito, meron siyang, upon computing, eliminating some symbols, obviously, wala siyang solution. So, A has no inverse. Therefore, A is a singular matrix. Wala siyang inverse eh. Paano yon? Ito, class, pag minultiply nyo ng negative 2, pag minultiply nyo ng negative 2, this side, the left-hand side becomes 0 and the right-hand side becomes negative 2. Diba inconsistent? Okay. Hindi naman pwede mag-equal yung 0 sa negative 2. So, doon pa lang, meron ng inconsistency. So, therefore, the linear systems have no solutions. Okay? Wala siyang solution. Hindi na natin kailangan i-verify ito. Though, makikita rin naman natin, if you try to multiply the first equation by negative 2 to eliminate the first letter, yung B natin. Obviously, hindi siya mag-equal. 0 tong magiging left-hand side and this side of the equation, right-hand side, magiging equal sa 1. And 1 can never be equal to 0. So, no solution. No? Naiintindihan ba? Kasi naiintindihan ko eh. Sana naiintindihan nyo rin, ha? At saka, hirapan ako magsalita. Sakit kasi ako. Okay. Okay, these are the properties of the inverse. May mga proofs to, pero I won't discuss them in the anymore. You just have to check on those, proofs. More on operations tayo, ha? Kasi yun ang kailangan natin. I want to be able to finish yung topic ng determinant before this Christmas, bago mag-Christmas break. Para naman, para hindi tayo malate. We have the, yung follow through ng ating OPTLP. Mahirap ma-short change, di ba? You need this. Na sa programming, this is very useful. Pag nagawa na kayo ng, thesis ninyo. Pero, malayo pa yon. First year pa lang naman kayo. Okay? Metaverse. What's that? Metaverse. Okay. Properties of the inverse. Okay. If A is a non-singular matrix, meaning it has an inverse, then the inverse of the inverse is A. Yan, diba? The inverse of A inverse. Tama ba sinabi ko? The inverse of A is just A. Letter B. The inverse of the product of AB is the product of their corresponding inverses. Kaya lang, pagpapalit na sila ng pwesto, mauna si B. Okay? Ay, nako. Ayan. O, kita niyo yan? Inverse ng product nila is equal to the product of their corresponding inverses. So, inverse of B times inverse of A. Again, if A has an inverse or a singular matrix or non-singular matrix, then the inverse of its transpose is also equivalent to the transpose of its inverse. They are one and the same. May mga proofs dito. I won't go over this proofs. Hindi natin na kailangan. Of course, kailangan in the sense that if you have difficulty remembering those properties, tapos nare-recall niyo yung proof, minsan ganon nag-stick yung proof sa mind over yung mismo kailangan i-memorize. Can be very useful. Okay? Madali lang namang intindihin yan, kaya lang sayang yung oras natin to show more examples. Okay? Ito. If ang given matrix dito ay yung ano ba yung A natin? Example number 2. Palagay ko, ang ginamit dito ay example number 2. This one. Yung example number 2. Okay. 1, 3, 2, 4. Tama ba? Okay. 1, 3, 2, 4. Ang inverse niya, tama ba? 1, 3, 2, 4, negative 2, 3, 2. Okay, yes. Okay. Yun yung example natin. Okay. Ang inverse niya ay ito. Okay. So, ang transpose, ginamitan ng example to illustrate the last property. Ang transpose nito is negative 2 kasi yung ating mga column nagiging rows. Negative 2, 3, 2, 1, negative 1 half. Okay. Ang transpose nito, if this is our A, ay, ang haba naman. Hindi makontrol. Okay. So we have 1, 3, 2, 4. Okay. So pag kinuha niyo yung inverse niyan, of course, you can verify this. Please verify this para napapractice niyo yung pagkuha ng inverse. Or you want me to do it. Siyempre, sabihin niyo, sige ma'am, gawin niyo. Gawin ko na lang. Masarap din yung sarili mo na lang ang kausap mo. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So, we have, paano kinukuha itong inverse nito? Ito, inverse nito. Paano? We have, okay, let's use blue. Diba? 1, 2, 3, 4 times, diba? A, B, C, D. Tama ba yung aking notation? Equal sa 1, 0, 0, 1. Tama ba ang notation ko? Check natin ha. Mamaya inconsistent ako. But of course, if you'll just be very consistent in putting symbols hanggang sa dulo, may logic kayo, then you'll end up getting the same values. A, B, C, D. O, tama. A, B, C, D, ha? O, ayan. Yan. Tama ako. A, B, C, D. Okay? So, we have, ang product niyan would be first row, first column. A plus 3C. Okay? Dito naman, second entry sa first row. First row times second column. B plus 3D. Tapos, dito sa baba, we have 2A, 4C. And then 2B plus 4D. Again, yan ay equal daw sa identity matrix natin. And then, can we solve it? Pwede na? Pwede na. Ay, ano ba yan? Bakit pa nahahaw? Ay, ano ba yan? Hirap talaga pag live show. Okay. Baba ko ito. Then we'll be getting from here yung A. Yung A natin. Ay, okay. Yung first entry natin, A plus 3C should be equated to 1. Then 2A plus 4C equals 0. Eliminate na natin dito para hindi na ako bumalik pa. Then we have negative 2. Negative 2A minus 6G equals negative 2. 2A plus 4C equals 0. Kumakancel na si A. And then, you are left with negative 2C equals negative 2. So, therefore, C equals 1. Let us check. Ito yung C, di ba? Tama yun, no? Pasok sa banga. Okay? Ano? Ay, okay. Kasi laging nakasingit ito. Tanggalin ko nga ito. So, pen. Okay. Red pa naman ang aking pen. So, C equals 1. If you have C, then you can already Bisaya man. Okay, pwede na nating i-compute yung A. So, A plus 3, C is 1. So, therefore, sabi this is supposed to be 1. A is negative 2. Tama ba? Check nga natin ang A. Yes, it's negative 2. Tama. And then we proceed to this entry sa ating product. B plus 3D equals 0. 2B plus 4D equals 1. So, i-eliminate natin si B. So, therefore, we have negative 2B plus, erase. 10, 10, red. So, negative 6D equals 0. 2B plus 4D equals 1. Cancel na si B. Negative 2D equals 1. So, D is negative 1 half. Check natin kung negative 1 half na si D. Yes, it's correct. Ano na lang? B na lang kukunin natin. So, B, therefore, equal to, replace ko yung D dito ng negative 1 half, equals 0. So, B is therefore equal to 3 over 2. Is it correct? Oh, yes. It's correct. Okay. So, tama ano? Tandaan nyo, A transpose raised to the negative 1 or the inverse of A transpose is the same as the inverse of A or the transpose of the inverse of A. Oh. Mahirap kasing i-recite okay. The transpose of the inverse of A is exactly the same as the inverse of the transpose of A. Galing, no? Or the A transpose. Tandaan niyo yun. Medyo na-solve na natin yon. Kita nyo naman, na-delete na naman yung aking ginawa dito. May extension siya. So, its extension would be, ito lang naman yon. Okay? Kapag daw meron kayong matrices, ito lang nakalagay supposedly dito ay ito. 10. A1, A2, up to AR. Meron kayong R matrices. And, ang size niya lahat, syempre, N by N non-singular or ibig sabihin no, non-singular, may inverse silang lahat. Okay, invertible silang lahat. Therefore, sabi dito, nako. Yan kaya nauubos ang oras ko sa kaan. So, ito na, I'm having difficulty. Bili na nga ng magandang ano. Wait. And, ito, singular. Okay, ayan, singular. Yung mga proof nito ay pwedeng gamitin yung nasa itaas. If we want to A1 times A2 up to AR, tapos kinuha yung inverse of their product, then that would be equal to A r raised to negative 1 or inverse of AR times the inverse of r minus 1 or a sub r minus 1 up to a sub 1 raised to negative 1. Okay, it means that if you're taking the inverse of the product of multiple matrices, that is just the same as multiplying their respective inverses in an inverse order or in a ano ba to? Descending order of the matrices. Okay? Ibig ko sabihin doon, babalik ta rin mo yung may order in a uh, prod or taking the inverse of their product. Tapos babalik ta rin nyo yun. And then this becomes the inverse of A sub R or times the inverse of A sub R minus 1 up to the inverse of A sub 1. Okay? Parehas lang sila. Kaya lang, you have to change the order of the matrices that we are supposed to multiply. Okay, that's kaya siya hiwa-hiwalay. It is supposed to be one file. Kaya lang sobrang laki. Hindi ko ma-load. Hindi ko ma-upload. Okay? Sana this one is a better presentation. Etong continuation, you see, nakikita niyo naman, continuation. Tapusin ko na to class, Pasensya na. Okay. Madali lang naman intindihin. Additional theorem, it says here that the product of A and B is an identity matrix, then BA, o known na yung B, then A, it will result to the same identity product. Okay? Or yung B naman, it's reverse order naman. BA is equal to identity, then AB is equal to identity. So, dali namang tandaan yan. Sabihin nyo, si ma'am, hindi na makita. Ito, alam nyo, nakakalimutan ko yung mga quick, ayan. Naalala ko tuloy yung tinuro sa akin ni Robert, ni Mark. Okay, thank you, Mark. Good. Ayan, okay. Tingnan ko. Ayan, okay. Ganun pala yon. So, ang hirap gawin yung earlier method natin. Let us try to apply yung practical method of finding the inverse. Wait lang, class, may commercial break lang ako. Nasaan na ba ako? Okay. Ayan, practical method. Madali daw to kaysa doon sa nauna kasi very tedious yung isa . Okay. So, step 1, form n by 2n matrix. So, A, nagiging augmented matrix siya. Dinidikit yung identity matrix IN. Kaya, nagiging ang size niya nung ating augmented matrix becomes 2 by 2n. And di ba supposedly n by n lang yun. Bakit n by 2n? Nagdodoble yung kanyang columns. Kasi pare-parehas naman ang sizes yan . So nagkakaroon ng lang. Nagdodoble lang siya. Okay? So, transform the matrix obtained in step 1 to reduce row echelon form. Okay, o i-apply natin yung reduced row echelon form o Gauss-Jordan elimination. Remember that whatever we do to a row of A, we also do to the corresponding row of IN or identity matrix. Damay silang lahat, okay? Walang iwanan, lahat damay. Yun lang ibig sabihin nun. Step 3. Suppose that step 2 has produced C, D in reduced row echelon form. Just a matter of assigning different symbols kasi nagbabago yung itsura nila eh. Okay? If C is equal to IN, eto raw, itong C na to. Highlight ko nga. This one, itong C na to becomes IN. Nalipat dito sa left side, naging IN na to. And D here becomes the inverse of A dito. If C is not equal to IN, P has zero entries for a row or to a specific row. In this case, A is singular. And the inverse of A does not exist. So sabi dito sa C na to, pag nakakita ka ng line or row na puro zero, singular na yon. So wala nang inverse. Okay? Diba? Pag singular, non-invertible. Inconsistent ang solution actually. Example, mas madali ito eh. Find the inverse of A. O yan, 3 by 3. Alam niyo, class, kung ang ginamit natin yung previous illustration of finding the inverse or yung steps in finding the inverse, medyo mahirap iyon. And then, ang susunod, create tayo ng augmented matrix. Yung ating identity matrix, ididikit nyo sa given matrix. Kaya siya, ang naging size na is 3, 1, 2, 3 by 6. Kaya n by 2n matrix. Okay? In reducing it or in transforming it to a reduced row echelon form, diba, ina-applyan lang natin ng elementary row operations. Eh, siguro naman, naalala nyo pa yon. So, ang susunod nyong gagawin dito, given this, given matrix, 1 na yung nasa unahan, dapat gawin na lang 0 yan. Okay? Add negative 5 times to the first row to, add negative 5 times the first row to the third row to obtain. Binabago nyo yung third row. Yan. Sa first row, nagmumultiply ng negative 5. Hindi pwede sa second row kasi hindi may eliminate itong nasa ibaba. Hindi magiging 0. Okay, and that would be it. Class, gagawin nyo itong activity na to sa lahat ng entries sa last row. Hindi pwedeng yung given matrix lang. Sa lahat yan. You see? Nagbago lahat ang values nitong last row. Okay? And then, what's next? Ito, gagawin mong 1. Okay. Ginawa mo na niyang 0 to. Yung nasa taas nito. Okay, yan. And then, so it becomes 0. Damay na lahat. Diba? Nagbago na yan. Okay? And then, susunod, ginawa itong 1 by multiplying the third row by negative 1/4. Again, nagbago lahat yung entries. From negative 4, negative 5, 0, 1, ito na. And then, may 1 ka na dito para maging reduced row echelon, elementary row echelon, ito, kailangan maging 0 yung dalawa. So, may mga operations involved. But again, you have to do the operation to the rest of the entries on those rows, first and second row. Now, we have already an identity matrix doon um, sa first matrix. Okay? Okay, this is supposed to be C. And that is our identity matrix. 3 by 3, diagonal, 1s lahat, tapos 0 lahat, the rest of the entries, except the diagonal. Okay, and D, therefore, kasi dito is P-mented D. So, D is our inverse. Ito yon. So, therefore, the inverse of A contains etong mga to. 13/8, -1/2, -1/8, and so on. So, to verify whether you're able to get the correct, check whether you have gotten the correct inverse, multiply nyo lang yung nakuha nyong inverse doon sa A. Dapat ang product niya, identity matrix. Okay? So note, if the reduced row echelon matrix under A has a row of zeros, then A is singular. Obviously, wala namang row na puro zero. Since each matrix under A is row equivalent to A, once a matrix under A has a row of zeros, every subsequent matrix that is row equivalent to A will have a row of zeros. Thus, we can stop the procedure as soon as we find matrix F that is row equivalent to A and has a row of zeros. In this case, the inverse of A does not exist. So, ang sinasabi lang dito, as you find the inverse, so it's a process of finding the inverse and you found a row of zeros sa C, supposedly C yun, hindi na siya magiging C, it's a matrix F that has a row of zeros, then you stop. Sabihin niya, hindi ka makakakita ng inverse of the given matrix. Example niyan, ito. Okay. Find the inverse of the matrix if it exists. So, it is 3 by 6 matrix. So, yun. Okay. Reduce it to its reduced row echelon or transform it to its reduced row echelon form. Noong tinatry niya na i-reduce siya, nakakita siya ng ganitong row na sa last row. At this point, mag-stop na kayo. Hindi nyo na kailangan pang mag-continue. Magpaliit pa nitong mga matrix values natin. So, dahil may 0, 0 entry sa last row, that is our F. So therefore, we can conclude that A is a singular matrix kasi inconsistent na yan. Hindi kasi po pwedeng mawawalan kasi ng value yung isang letter or isang variable. Observe that to find the inverse of A, we do not have to determine in advance whether or not it exists. We merely start the procedure given above and either obtain the inverse of A or find out that A is singular. So you have to go through the process. You cannot actually really see whether a particular matrix has an inverse or has no inverse. So we have an additional theorem. Okay, diretso na ako. Given this, AX equals B, Class, this is a linear system, ha? Baka nakakalimutan nyo. It's our notation. So, pag minultiply natin both sides by the inverse of A, okay, let's see what will happen. Okay, minultiply natin ng A inverse ang two sides of the equation, dapat lang. And then applying some properties, you'll end up getting this. Okay, ito kasi by associativity law, pinrove mo yung A inverse times A. And it's just an identity matrix. And identity matrix times X is just X. Okay? X is ano ha? Class, it's a set of variables in a given linear system. So to find the values of X, you just have to multiply A inverse by B. It is clearly a solution to the given linear system. Thus, A is non-singular. We have a unique solution. Okay. Oh, tapos na pala. I thought I have an illustration on this. Okay. May questions ba kayo before I dismiss the class?
Wala naman po, ma'am.
Okay lang, naiintindihan nyo ba? Sorry ha, I cannot show my video kasi hindi pa ako naliligo.
Naintindihan naman po, ma'am.
Okay, good. Very good. Bakit 57 na lang kayo? Eh, ang laki ng klaseng to. Ay, 64. I know, 60. At 60 na lang kayo. Marami na bang nag-drop o Christmas fever na? Ayaw na mag-aral.
Yung iba po, ma'am, nasa bakunahan po. Nagpapabakuna.
Ah, okay. Ang daming nakaschedule pala ngayon. Very good. Very good. Just ha, si ang aking, si Mary Ann, ang aking kanang kamay dito oh. Would you know, Mary Ann, kung sino-sino sila?
Opo, ma'am. Nag-PPM po sila sa akin.
Oh, please. Take, the necessary, recording. I'm sorry talagang ko sa'yo, napaka-dependent ko sa'yo when it comes to attendance, taking the attendance.
Ayos lang po, ma'am.
Thank you. Would you like to have a quiz tomorrow? Walang sumasagot. Ayaw ng quiz. Ayaw nyo ng quiz? Putting it fresh pa? Or you have your classes pa? O isang na lang.
May mga classes po kasi kami
okay.
bukas, ma'am.
Okay. Ganito na lang kasi magmi-meet pa naman tayo next week, So, mag-lesson muna tayo on Wednesday next week. And then, on Thursday, may quiz na tayo noon. May activity na, Medyo mas mahaba-haba kasi I'll be discussing, determinants already by next meeting. And I'm excited to discuss it to you. Okay? Meron pang questions before I greet you Merry Christmas. Sabi ko na Merry Christmas. And I have to leave.
Merry Christmas
now.
po.
Merry Christmas ulit. Kasi sorry inaaral ko pa talaga yung game kung paano ko yun i-execute during our class or during our synchronous class session. Pero promise talaga, malapit ko nang matutunan lahat. Kasi baka pumalpak, hindi mabigyan ng equal chances yung iba. Okay? No more questions? Please, mag-comment na lang or yes, mag-post kayo ng mga concerns niyo doon sa mga in-upload kong files kasi baka hindi nyo rin talaga nakikita yung mga symbols para makorek ko so that you have a cleaner reviewer for your test. Kasi baka siya halo-halo. Just let me know please yung mga in-upload ko kung may problema. Okay? So, bye-bye for now. And thank you for attending my class. Bye-bye.
Thank you po,
Thank you
ma'am.
po.
Merry Christmas po.
Ma'am.
Ang wala po bang papasko yung mga mga estudyante niyo po?
Humirit pa
Thank you
talaga.
po, ma'am.
Sige. Pag-iisipan ko yan. Sige, bye-bye na.
Yay! Merry Christmas, ma'am!
Thank you po, ma'am.
Happy New Year po!